Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it been?
It's been good.
Yeah.
Welcome back to a 5-star rated podcast on iTunes.
Uh,
Hey, we finally got it. We finally got enough ratings. So
out.
exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you to all those who have kindly left their thoughts and feelings and rated us appropriately. Yeah, we're really excited to keep going. And
In the UK, and apparently stars are enough, because in the UK we have only 4 reviews, but 6 stars.
7.
Se-
So
well,
7 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Excellent. Really? Yeah.
Let's start by giving a get well soon to Jamie and Bree that just were into a car accident not so long ago.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so they're not podcasting for a while, but they're safe.
That's good.
But yeah,
How
get well
awful.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sending love and good vibes.
Good vibes.
What? I believe in that kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Did you there is currently something brewing in the gaming community. I don't know if you heard about
Is
that.
this? I know you're going to get into this, Yann, because you're a big Diablo fan.
Well,
I don't know the thing, but you fire in there.
So there is this company which was called for a long time Blizzard Entertainment, which is now Activision Blizzard, and they've been doing all the StarCraft, Diablo, World of Warcraft for almost 20 years. And every year since 10 years or something, they have a convention completely dedicated to their work. So that's BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And I went to the 2015 one, actually.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. And this year, they announced that the next iteration of their hack and slash famous Diablo franchise is going to be on mobile.
Idiots.
This was not well received.
No, of course it's not. Nobody. We sometimes talk about gaming on mobiles is not a thing. Gaming on a mobile is not gaming.
I can't imagine that it would be, because it's a very different way of gaming.
I mean, Diablo
even doing anything.
Diablo started on the PC, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So even PC gamers think that console gaming is not gaming. So Christ knows what they think about mobile phone gaming.
Wow, really? Do they think that?
Yeah, there's a big, huge spark between consoles and
And PC.
PC. Well, for example, we have both the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, both owned by me and Yann, respectively. And the Xbox One X is the most powerful of the two. It can run native 4K and has a built-in 4K Blu-ray player. But even at that high spec that it has, I don't know all the super spec in it because I'm not super techie. It still only meets like a low-end gaming PC build. Like, they specifically build their PCs to play games at higher quality and like a bit more frame rates and so on and forth, better performance, all that sort of stuff.
And the consoles are boxed that are fixed.
You can't mess about with that. So there's an element of like tinkering and playing about and finding out what you like the best in your PC as a gamer. So that's why console gaming is seen differently, because it's just anyone could pick up a console and play it. Which is the appeal of a console, as opposed to a computer where you build it and you specialize and you take care and you pick what you want to play, you know?
Yeah, and the controller is a bit more integrated, I feel. So for some games, I actually prefer the console. But some games won't work. Like, World of Warcraft wouldn't work. There are so many spells and stuff that it wouldn't work on console.
Yeah.
And obviously not on mobile. The day it goes there, that's the end of, if we go full mobile, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the subject of the matter of today is the film that we went to see together yesterday with the unlimited Cineworld screenings. It is released on the 7th of November, so technically tomorrow in the UK, and on the 9th of November in the US. This is so. I like the sound I heard in the cinema when the BBFC card came and it said 18.
What did I say? Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Oh God.
Oh God, I'm scared. Yeah, I'm a bit of a
You're a bit of what?
I was about to say pussy, but I'm not going to say that.
You've said it now. Yann, edit that so just Anouk saying I'm a bit of a pussy.
Yeah, by the way, I'm editing that on the podcast, obviously, but the video I left untouched. So
oh, yeah, that's true. So the Patreon and
well,
watchers,
to be fair, it has nothing to do with a vagina, so it's fine.
Go back to the network episode to talk about that. If you want some more information about that. No, sorry, the Bin Laden episode.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
We had a big long conversation about the
sword sheath.
The sheath.
Yeah, but also pussy isn't from it being a vagina. It's actually meant as it comes from the word, I think it's pusillanimous, which is Latin for like scared.
Oh.
So it's got nothing to do with like being anti-feminist. That's all I meant, that like you can actually use the term pussy as like being scared because it's got nothing to do with being anti-women.
5-star rated content right here, folks.
A lot of people don't know that.
You know, one of the reviews said you always learn something interesting. There you go. There's the origin of the word pussy. There you go. From Anouk's mouth.
I think I shared that on my Facebook. Anyway.
Yeah, so this film, because we didn't say what it was.
Overlord.
Overlord, yes.
The is it produced?
Yes.
J.J. Abrams produced?
Yeah, it's directed by Julius Avery, who is actually doing the Flash Gordon remake soon.
I read that.
I looked at his filmography. He's done like some interesting films that like this seems to be his first big one, like his first full-scale budget thing. And the script.
Yes. Billy Ray. Nothing.
Not to do with
Cyrus. No.
He is the screenwriter for Captain Phillips.
Yes, and is writing the next Ang Lee's film, Gemini Man.
Oh, okay.
And an entitled Terminator reboot. Well as the next Don Quixote and Sinatra biopic.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So busy.
I will start off by saying I really like Captain Phillips. I mean, some people I've heard some people say that Captain Phillips isn't great, but I thought it was quite a good suspense film for a film that you already know what happens.
I haven't seen it.
It's worth a watch. You know the story though, right?
No, I don't know this film.
Tom Hanks plays the skipper who is taken over by Somali pirates, and the action unfolds. It's based on a true story.
I did see yes, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Sorry. I didn't know that it was called Captain Phillips. Okay.
But yeah,
that's interesting. I want to see
film.
that.
I really enjoy that. I really enjoyed watching that film.
Also, The Hunger Games is on.
Yeah, he's involved in the adaptation of The Hunger Games.
So a lot of people will know that.
Second writer, Mark L. Smith, who is writing, and that's quite exciting, the entitled Star Trek project, the Tarantino one.
Ooh, you'll be excited for that, Yann.
Yeah, Yann.
Is writing that,
yeah.
Wow. Going back to something we talked about a while back, I've watched Orphan at last.
Hey, that was, I quite like that film. What do you think?
Yes, it's... it's funny because it has what I would call the Incredibles 2 effect, which is also in Upgrade. The fact that, but for some reason it worked quite nicely. The fact that I clocked immediately that what was wrong with the girl. I was like, no, I will not spoil it there, but I was like, this one, she's not, I clocked exactly what it was. And
so you clocked that she's an older woman?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I've never seen, I don't interact with kids that much, but I wouldn't imagine that a person, she must be way, way older than she appears. Well, I figured it would be more like a possession or something, so I didn't get the full thing, but I immediately was like, she's older than she seems.
She's, yeah. I always thought that like, oh God, she's going to cause the family a lot of weird stuff because she's quite a strange child. But the twist actually got me because the fact that she's been doing this for a long time and then she like seduces the husband and then kills it's like, yeah, I think it was really nicely done anyway.
It works for me because it was not because that she has this sickness and that she's mentally sick, so it works. Wouldn't. It's grounded. Like it's a real. It could have been like a true story, basically.
Yeah, because I think there is a disease that you don't. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that connects to Hereditary for me. That film, but sorry, go on.
So I was done. I was just going to add that I actually auditioned for the role in Overlord.
Yes, you
Well,
did.
no. No.
You've put yourself...
To be more specific, because, okay, so there is this... it's funny, we don't have that in France. In the UK, there is, it's state fund, well, it's official at least, this Spotlight service, spotlight.com, which is a casting agency.
Yeah.
For people out there who don't know, because we do, obviously. And the past 2.5 years, I've been putting myself forward. You know, you get casting breakdowns every day, so we're matching your casting type. And I think it was 6 months ago, there was something like French prisoner for this. So I put myself forward. I didn't get any news. I never get any news back from Spotlight, to be honest.
The difficulty is with Spotlight is because there's so many of us on it, and it's a lot to do that I discovered with the small box they give you. You should fill that in. The casting notes.
The first line, just the first line.
Yeah, always try and put something in it so you have something to say next, because they just see a headshot and what's in that box, so it is difficult to get seen sometimes.
I think as well it's because you're up against Judi Dench. Like, Judi Dench is on Spotlight, so and I know that it's a very different way of looking at it, but I just mean that we're all in this one thing. Why the hell would they give it to us? Do you know what I mean? It's like we're against people that are trustworthy, that they've had films before, they know people, blah blah blah. Like, there's no reason for these casting directors to come to people that have apparently never acted before in their lives, type thing.
Well,
so
I'm glad that Dame Judy didn't get the French prisoner part, to be honest.
Oh no!
Speaking of
that would have been weird.
They heavily thought of Oscar bait film is starring Kenneth Branagh and Judi Dench, which is based on the after effects of the death of Hamlet. So Kenneth Branagh is playing Shakespeare, and Hamnet. Sorry, what did I say?
Hamlet.
No, I said Hamnet.
I heard Hamlet.
Me too. Yeah, I heard.
Sorry, go on.
All right, maybe I did. We can check it back anyway. It's based on the after effects of that. So
of Shakespeare losing his son.
And Ian McKellen's in it as well. So
Great.
they're thinking that this is going to be a real charge for the Oscar seasons. But I thought that's quite cool. Just a side note from Judi Dench. I remembered I'd read that somewhere. So that'd be quite interesting to see.
Wow.
So this film, Overlord.
So this film got me thinking that it was kind of a mix between From Dusk Till Dawn and Iron Sky.
Now, the interesting thing is I'm going to bring up here is, in a previous episode, I mentioned the book. I mentioned the idea of the 7 plots. I don't think I went into it. I'm going to use this film to introduce the first one. And if you're interested in learning more of anything I say, I won't go super in depth. We will link out the Amazon link to the book by Christopher Booker.
Yeah, I got the book in the meantime, actually.
I'm reading it at the moment. It's in my room. I'm devouring it because it's super interesting. This film is a great example of the first example of story. The first of the 7 plots. So I'm very impressed by that. But I'm also very impressed going in as the opening of this film. Phenomenal.
Wow.
Very well done.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a film that really shows... Well, I have never been a soldier at war, so I can't say.
Really?
But, no. But it seems really like they've done their research on what it would actually be like. Like, you were saying that they would only parachute off the planes at night.
Right. So the historical context of this is, so we're in Overlord is the code name for the D-Day, is now known as the D-Day landings on Omaha Beach and
that I didn't know.
Omaha, Echo, all the other beaches.
Yeah.
So it was the Allied invasion of Europe, which was a combined effort of the Americans, the British, and the Canadians.
Okay, right, okay.
I've probably missed one, but I'm pretty sure it's those 3 were the major and the French. I don't know if were the French involved in D-Day, Yann? I know they were. Did they help? Because they were occupied, so I don't know what was going on with the French. Did the French help out with D-Day? Surely something.
Charles de Gaulle was in London for some time because he escaped and rebelled. I don't know.
I don't know, because they wouldn't have like the French army wouldn't really.
Oh, Russians. Did you mention Russians?
Were the Russians involved in D-Day? I can't remember.
Well, I don't know.
No, they were stuck on the right.
No, but yeah. Okay, no, but I mean, because when And that's something that's annoying a lot of people, including me, when people say the US saved us from Nazis. Well, no, Russians did.
It's a whole issue, yeah. It's a whole combined force.
And they lost in tens of millions, whereas the Americans lost less than 1,000 and something, 100.
Well, it's
anyway.
to do, with the fact that America doesn't join until 1944 with the invasion, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Anyways, the involvement is beside. So we start with the Allies flying in. So if you've ever watched the TV series Band of Brothers, which I highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
It was the other example of this scene well done, because Band of Brothers follows the 101st Air Force, who famously parachuted in before. So what happened was, it might be the only attempt of parachuting at night, at least in the Second World War, because it was a complete and utter disaster.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was they couldn't see where they were. So they all jumped out and they were lost. They were messed up and miles apart from each other all over Normandy. So eventually you'll see, and it happens at the end of this film, that they get relocated into another company. So the men that you spent your whole time at boot camp training with either got killed in the jump or were lost and ended up with another company. So it's one of the biggest disasters. The other major parachuting stuff were like in Italy all during the day, and then even with Market Garden a couple of years later. Or was it no? The same, was it 45 Market Garden? Later in the war, at least, all during the day when they parachuted into Holland. So this is America's first foray into parachuting. Band of Brothers really goes in deep about the whole mindset of why you became a paratrooper. It's a paratrooper. Or a Marine.
Definitely. And I think, but this one, like the first scene is them on the plane.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for the green light to go on so that they can jump out. But they get hit before. And the sound and the color scheme and the coordination between everyone, like it looked so natural. It was like you were watching it happen, which of course makes it more traumatic to watch because you want to help. And also because there's a connection between, I'm going to come back to this later because there's another scene that is also traumatic, is that this happened a lot. And these are like young kids. These are like 20-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds, which I think you're very much aware of this time, watching this film as well, that these are just kids.
These are also people that have learnt of the First World War or the Great Wars at some point in time. Like, these are people raised on not the horrors yet, or like just the battle stories of the people that have come back from being in the trenches of France and Belgium, or in Italy, or far out in Gallipoli and so forth. All of these other regions. This is a nation that has already seen war, and they're going again.
Yeah.
So there's both a sense of this is our time to have fun before they get there, and they realize, oh God, this is hell. We've entered a war, and it really is a war. The difficulty is here, and I only thought about it now when I'm thinking not critically, but thinking in a discussion sense of Overlord, is what about the ultimate portrayal of D-Day, which is Saving Private Ryan, the first 10 to 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan going up the beach.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which is the other major cinematic moment of war. I'm going to say something bold here. I think this holds up to that. I think this was a very well executed, obviously not the same amount of budget that had and the same level of like intensity, because that was continuous for 15 minutes, whereas this is maybe like 4 to 5 tops. But in the time that we're up there, it is super intense. You feel it. You really do feel it.
I think that the best thing that these films do is that you follow someone or you follow a conversation, and then halfway through, one of them gets shot.
Yeah, that annoyed me, but that annoyed me in a film sense, but it makes sense in a real sense.
Why did that annoy you?
Just like, oh, why did you have this character if you're just going to kill them off? But then when you think about it, I'm like, this is war. This happens all the time.
Yeah,
so
but
I'm like,
I quite
that makes
liked that because it was real. It was like, well, people die.
I felt in a film sense it was like, let's kill all the likable people. Let's kill all the naive people, which is definitely a theme of war, that the naive do not survive.
Isn't that the game you're playing at the moment? Every time you die, you're respawning into the body of a new soldier.
I thought that was fucking genius.
Going back to games, because it's November, on Xbox Gold, they've given you Battlefield 1, which is DICE's version of the First World War. And the opening single-player chapter is when you die, you respawn in as another person, and it has a name and everything. Yeah, that's a really cool gimmick. And you're right, that idea of into a new person, dying in war.
It just goes to show that like you're totally immersed in that world where it's like when you die, your character is dead.
Yeah.
Like so, the immense loss of life is very aware to you. There's no way you can lose that.
I just like in the opening that because I as a video game player and loving history, I've played a lot of like Medal of Honor and seeing different aspects of war showing in video games where they can go all out because it's not in film, it's done by computer design. And this really holds up. And I was worried that I would be desensitized because I've seen so many people try and recreate what the wonder was with Saving Private Ryan. I remember seeing Saving Private Ryan a bit young and being really affected by that scene. Like, it was the first time I saw that scene, it was really difficult to watch. Actually, it was really tough. I must have been probably about 10.
Really?
I wasn't 12 yet because it's it's a 15.
That's young.
Maybe I must have been older than 10, but I was definitely not the age of the certificate, whatever it is. So
no,
it was tough to watch the first time.
It's funny about parenting because I suppressed completely Facebook. Now I have an undercover one to join groups like Saw recently, horror, and I did some polls and stuff. And there was one person who, a mother who had her 9-year-old son watch Saw. And she was, okay.
Wow.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, that's nice.
Tough.
Yeah.
Can
we talk about the birthing scene? Not later on in the film. The nice effect continuing on from the opening is when the continuous shot of him falling out of the sky, when he's pushed out the plane, and then him bursting through the parachute,
right
in the water. You remember when he comes out? It's like being birthed into war. I thought
shit.
That's what I thought. Like he's emerging into this.
That's very poetic, Adam.
But, well, the whole film, I get the feeling that what's his name again? I always forget his name. Boyce, right? Boyce is definitely set up to be this naive, like not seen in the world yet, like very find the good in everything.
Farm boy.
Definitely.
Just like in a lot of stories, when we meet the hero, which is our protagonist, as we call it a lot. We always find something that we want to identify, or they're missing something, because then the story can allow a bit of journey for them to find what they are missing.
Sure.
In this sense of the film, he's missing this rawness that is needed to survive war, which is what the colonel has.
What's his name?
What's the colonel's name again? Do you remember, Yann?
Well, I'm actually
gonna get the names, because
I'm looking for something.
The colonel, which is the guy who served in Italy, already has it because he's been at war, which makes him a more rugged. And at most of the film,
what do you mean? The leader,
the corporal,
the corporal,
the corporal, yeah. He's an unlikable character because we are identifying with the innocence that Boyce has, and we like that because it's more relatable to us because we haven't seen the horrors of war.
Yeah.
So there's a whole idea, I feel, of like rebirth. Not rebirth, like being rebirth kind of works, but like because being reborn as this somebody who's seen war,
Yeah.
Ford, Riot Russell.
Ford. That's it, Ford.
I think he's Goldie Hawn's son.
So there's a lot of stuff in here that I'll mention about, becoming a new character. But I thought that was very nice of him being baptism by fire, which is, dunking into the water and the flames around in the sky as all the B-52s and all these big ships are blown to bits.
Yeah.
And he is born again. He's been baptized in the baptism of fire, which is the war.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Boyce is played by Jovan Adepo. I'm not butchering that. Who I wasn't able to find any voice coach in the IDB page, and the crew list is extensive. So it's probably coming all from the actors. And the French was pretty great, actually, across the board there.
Oh, that's good to hear, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe he speaks French, or at least has some background in it.
Yeah, because Yann usually doesn't comment about any of the languages if he sees it in film, because usually it's like passable or like meh. But this time when we came out of the cinema, Yann just specifically went, yeah, the French on this was pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's quite impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
There is an interesting goof on the IMDb page, which I will talk right after I'm done talking about the trailer, because it's related a bit.
All right.
So I specifically avoided to watch this trailer and any kind of trailer for now almost a month. Although I'm still in theater when this happens, so I'm just closing my eyes. Which is so I'm hearing them, which is funny because when you watch one of Mark Rylance's video, the first time he experienced Shakespeare was listening to plays rather than watching them. Yeah, there is some different aspect to it. Anyway, and I felt there was some spoilery element when it was talking about the 1,000-year army needs 1,000-year soldiers and stuff. And watching it, I confirm that it's, I mean, obviously, I think they could have lied and make it as if it was a standard, normal. I mean, you see Bad Robot, so you know immediately that something is going to be good in there. I wonder, because I talked about that very quickly early in the episode. Now I'm not going to. I wonder if they did do that. If I actually I don't think I would have actually went to see that movie if it was just a standard.
So you're saying if the trailer was...
If it was just like a new version of Saving Private Ryan, I would not have done. I would not have been. But so they probably could have had... I've watched this French video of a guy explaining the art of trailers and how it's now done. There is one trailer of a movie with Cillian Murphy. I don't remember exactly what it is, and it's the trailer starts as a romantic comedy and everything, and the last image of the trailer makes it that you consider everything that you just saw in the trailer differently. So I think it could have been better. Obviously the trailer company is completely different than what the production is. So there's different people, but it probably would have worked better, in my opinion, if they only had one of the stuff that is different from other war movies at the end for 2 seconds or something.
Right.
Rather than have it all the way through, because you have it all the way through. You get the bad guy full on, so you know what it's about.
But that you're right in the sense of like that's not how trailers are done anymore. I feel you've got a really good point, that because we know famously the case of Suicide Squad was the actual movie was edited by the people that edited the most successful trailer. Usually it isn't. It's outsourced to another company who specify in making trailers to get people to go and see movies. I can't remember, because people used to watch trailers. Like you'd watch it and go, oh, that's a really good trailer. I don't know anybody that does that now, but except for the fact they're excited for the movie. Not as in like the trailer is like, oh, this is really well done, this is a nice trailer. Like gone are the days where I always look at the trailer for Incredibles 1, where it's like Mr. Incredible, it's like a shot of all these posters on the wall, all these vintage artworks of him being incredible, and then it cuts to him like trying to put the suit on and he doesn't fit in it anymore. Immediately you get the idea of what that film is going to be.
Genius.
And it doesn't spoil the film, because when you watch the film again, that whole point is brought across in the film.
Totally.
In the first like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's the case of a good trailer. Again, not necessarily a good trailer, but interestingly done for marketing purposes. Catfish. The Catfish trailer plays as a horror movie. But when you watch the film, it's a sort of heartwarming look at lonely people online, you know? So a trailer that gets you in, but then the movie makes you think, I'll go with. But nowadays, a trailer just exists to get you excited to see it.
Do you think that's because they spend a lot of money making them, so they want to make the money back, or do you think it's because they have so much workload that they don't have time to like think about specific stories that they can kind of like it's like a tangent off the main story, but it's kind of connected, like the Incredibles trailer?
Honestly,
but
sorry,
it's so it's easier for them to just edit the best bits and then put it into like a minute.
No, I think it's because, and this is really sad, that on YouTube, which is the second biggest search engine apart from Google, you can skip ads after 5 seconds. So you have to make a trailer that you can scram a lot of what the trailer has in it within 5 seconds.
Oh God, yeah.
That's the world we live in. If YouTube is the biggest source of where people are going to go and see your movie is out, you have to get it all done in there. And then again, even on TV spots are like 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds for your trailer. So a lot of the time they have to cram it in. And whatever they put in the 5 seconds has to also translate to the full whatever length the trailer is, you know, like a minute to 2 minutes. Like, it has to have the same points it hits. It's never anything different than what's in the 5 seconds. It's just an extended look of what you've already just seen, you know? So I think that's one of the bigger issues, that marketing via social media and YouTube is one of the reasons that trailers have changed, because you used to see trailers in the cinema, so they could take their time because, you know,
you're
there already. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
nowadays it's online. It's instant speed like that.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the big reasons.
It would have had an overdone effect, like Sarah Kane monologues. Like, okay, Americans are fighting Nazis, and we've seen that before.
A good trailer would be, I think, if they did it like in a 1940s clip style, like, hey, come and see the movie, and then like at the end there's like Yann said, a bit of like zombie-esque or monster effects, like, or you get a shot of somebody screaming in a laboratory.
Or
that's what you get. I think that'd be a good trailer.
Or what they do, but then it defeats the purpose a bit to have that, to see it with your own eyes in the big screen. Have what they do sometimes, the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, the first 6 minutes usually.
That's interesting. I think as well, like, what would have been nice was, well, I actually quite liked the fact that this film shocked me, because there are so many zombie movies out there as well. And so you could also talk about that like, this is a war movie, but it's also a zombie movie, and there's also Nazis. Like, how many people have seen that film?
But don't confuse it. It's not a Nazi zombie movie.
No, but
which is a different thing.
Well, no, sort of. It's connected to that, because the sergeant becomes a Nazi zombie.
Yeah,
well,
the idea is to create super soldiers, obviously, and then
of course
they turn into, which is a real thing. Like, many people have tried to create super soldiers,
the ultimate
enhanced
army, sort of thing.
Right.
I don't know because I don't know the guy. Thankfully, what Mengele's motivations were, but
I'm sure it's Joseph, but I might be making
it was. I think
it is Joseph
Mengele.
Yeah.
With twins.
You're on first name basis, okay? Well,
yeah, me. God, yeah. I just loved history as a teenager. Like, if I wasn't an actor, I would have gone into history. Probably.
He specified on twins.
Jesus.
Yes. I just once. I said I will talk about the goof related to the trailer thing.
Oh, God,
yeah.
So as soon as you watch that trailer, so you know it's going to be zombies or super soldiers or anything. So your disbelief is suspended immediately, or else we'll just like, well, to enjoy, you have to know that it's not reality, not how it happened. And so the goof that was, which is true but doesn't make sense in a movie which is so far removed from reality, on IMDb. So soldiers of African heritage were not integrated with Caucasian units during World War II.
What?
Yeah.
What?
What?
Is that on IMDb?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Soldiers of African heritage were not integrated with Caucasian units during World War II.
Okay, so...
Oh, sorry. You mean the fact...
So you're saying that in real life, Boyce would not have been with them?
Yeah.
Because he's black?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's what on IMDb is. That's what it said on IMDb. I didn't. And IMDb is pretty much like actually Wikipedia. You can write anything.
You can change things. Yeah.
The problem
that's interesting.
That annoys me though, because what part of this film makes it feel like a real world, like this actually happened?
That's
like,
exactly what I just.
I totally agree with you.
Who cares?
It's like who cares? It's like it's nice to see a black protagonist.
I think what's nice as well is that there was no statement.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, oh, this is... And also, I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I don't agree with that. But it was nice that was never said. He was just a guy and he was a soldier first. So there was no focus on the fact that he was different from anyone else.
Yeah.
And as much as, because there's so much transitioning... I think there are so many films that talk about it being like a political statement. And I actually just shared a video of Viola Davis talking about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what film it was. Was it Widows? Where she's in love with Liam Neeson.
Oh, okay.
And it's never actually said that this is a mixed race couple or she's black and he's white. You know, it's just... They're just a couple in love.
I know.
Well, you know the thing that nobody talks about when everybody's talking about there is this thing on The First Man, right? Like, this is why we go to the movies, and the other person says, what do you mean by we, white man? If you watch Morgan Freeman's very old video, racism, if you just start by you stop calling me a white man. And I'll stop calling you a black man. That's the first step, isn't it? Because you stir racism by putting it's one big Ben Shapiro thing, putting people into groups rather than being interested in their own individualities.
Yeah,
I agree with that. But I do also think that sometimes you need to talk like that because someone started it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm watching a film that's been totally whitewashed, I will say they're all white people. I don't have a connection with any of them because they're white. That's the only time that I will say that that's okay to put someone in a group when it's very obvious that they've done it first.
The problem there
am I making sense?
Yeah, no, you're making sense. Also, me and Anouk just finished watching, highly recommended if you can find it in America or if you're in Britain on iPlayer, They've Got to Have Us, the 3-part documentary about black filmmaking and being involved in basically from Sidney Poitier to all the way up to now with I've forgotten his name already, John Boyega and his agent having a production company as well. Just I didn't even know that they had a production company and they produced the new Pacific Rim. I thought that was really interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But they in the aspect of like, stop calling me white, stop calling me black, I'll stop calling you white, that sort of thing. I think that's dangerous when that can be used to take away credit from black filmmakers. Because I watched that and went, this should be talked about. Like, there are these amazing black filmmakers that I, as grown up as a white person, I've never heard of, and I'm like, that's not fair for their art, that because of color I've not been shown their work, that I have to go and look for it specifically. Like, it isn't massively known. And I think that's a problem, because when you start saying everyone's a filmmaker, I think we start losing like these really important things. Like, these are important moments in history. Like, I can't remember her name, which is really annoying me. She made like a really arty film, and nobody it never went anywhere. But then Beyonce makes Lemonade, and it uses a lot of influence from that arty film, which I can't remember, which I will find and link at the end of the episode.
Eve something?
Yeah. Is it Eve's? I mean, no, I think that was directed.
I think her first name was Eve.
Ava DuVernay?
Yeah.
That might be it.
Well done, Yann.
Yeah, she did the Wrinkle in Time.
Yes. Yeah. So I totally.
I might be thinking of a different thing, but I know what you mean. She's good as well.
But do you know what? This is my only problem with people like Shapiro and Peterson and what's the other guy? There's another one that talks
Milo?
kind of Yeah,
Don't
like
mention her.
do you know what? Some of their most of their stuff is really intelligent, and they're so eloquent. The reason why they are controversial is because they say things like this. And as much as I understand where they're coming from, oh dear. As much as I understand where they're coming from, it's tough for someone who is non-white to not be made to feel like you are not universal.
Okay.
So I think it's from a place of privilege to say, don't call me white man because the world tells me that I'm mixed race every day. Do you know what I mean?
I get what you mean in this sense.
So it's really hard.
No.
It's really hard for me to say, like, because I think every person of color would love for that to be the truth.
Nope.
No, you don't know.
No, but I mean the consensus is, and that's what came out in my life right after Libya, is those guys, they don't like to be told what to think, and that's what we get all the time. We are being told what to think, and if we think wrong, then we're Nazis.
No, I don't agree with that. I think the sad thing is that the only people that we're hearing are the extremists. And so, and it's a problem because we've got people now saying, I'm not a feminist because I don't agree with this stuff. And it's like, that's dangerous because you are a feminist. Everyone, I'm sorry, everyone, I think most people are feminists.
No, but it's a brand. Like in Islam, there are the extremists and the moderate.
Exactly. And then
feminism,
people say,
you've got the crazy ones.
Exactly. And they're the only people that you hear. And it's the same with Islam. It's like Muslim and Islam is wrong and extremist. No, those are the only people that you hear. And it's the same with feminism. And that's why it's so. And this is the same thing with this whitewashing thing going on. Is because it's the only thing you hear and you see, which means that you're not represented. And if you are represented, you're not going to see that as a problem because you've always been felt like there's a movie out there for you. But if you, from 0 to now, if you've never seen a film where you feel represented in the media, that is going to affect you as a person.
Yeah.
So I think, as much as I agree with it, I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah, of course, because it has to become part of the conversation. And
Exactly.
Especially with a podcast, I can feel all three of us feeling nervous about this, talking about this issue. But the problem is because of what the world we live in now, that as soon as you say one thing, that's your opinion. It's like, if we're going to solve a problem, we have to be able to say what we think initially. Then people go, no, this is wrong for that reason. And then you go, right, that makes sense. And you have a conversation and you move forward.
And then maybe you can learn and then maybe you can disagree, but they're not devaluing you by saying that this certain thing I disagree with, or I think that there are problems. Because of course there are problems.
Because if everything we said the first time we thought it was true, we'd be God.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I know.
It is, and it's also a total abuse of power and the amazing thing that social media, because also digital, social media, the internet is an incredible thing, and it's done amazing things for the world. But we're abusing it for evil.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. There's this saying that good people sometimes, when they are wronged in a shop and everything, they won't complain because they really don't want that person to be fired. They have a job, and they do this kind of thing.
Tell that woman that came after me for giving her a gift receipt for eggs.
Oh yeah.
My very first day at work, when women wanted to get another box of eggs, and I didn't know what to do, and I gave her a gift receipt for eggs, the price of eggs. And she got annoyed at that. I'm like, but in my head, I'm like, that works because you want another set of eggs. You could use this to buy the eggs.
Oh dear.
But no, she came after me for that. Or like the woman I stole Christmas last year with my dad because the sprouts weren't in, or the parsnips or whatever it wasn't in the hamper. My dad had ruined her daughter's Christmas. I mean, there are just people out there that just want. I don't know where I'm going with this, but there is that minute force of Or is it Bigfoot? I don't know what I mean.
I think people sometimes don't see other people as people.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So
they can't see themselves in the other person. They can't relate to how would I feel if they were doing this to me.
Exactly.
Right.
They think you're doing a service for me. Do it properly, or I'm going to tell you that you are scum. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like I'm the only one that is here and has feelings, and you are just pawns in my game.
Yeah, it's one of the signs. I don't remember where it was in the dating thing, that to find your perfect partner, see how that person reacts towards waitresses and waiter. And
that's good shit.
So
That's true.
You know a lot about a person. No, I was coming to that from the point of view that now it's entirely reversed. On social media, you get a wrong tweet. Well, except if you're the president, but Roseanne, James Gunn, you're immediately fired.
Yeah. We live in a really strange time of like, as soon as you say something, that's what you are immediately. And
which is even more perverse is that if you apologize, you're fired. If you deny, that's probably the best course of action. You deny, you keep your job. Kevin Spacey didn't deny, is now non-existent. There are plenty of other people, I'm pretty sure.
He did deny it, didn't he?
I think he started denying
He said he didn't recall.
Well, his apology was so weird.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah.
His apology was weird.
The way he reacted, he used
came
it
out.
Yeah, he used it to come out. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, the examples of those apologizing, it's one of the rules apparently, and I never apologize. I mean, there was this was Brie Larson who refused to clap when not Ben, but Casey Affleck won his Oscar.
Yeah.
There are allegations on plenty of people who always deny and they're still around.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because there are some other people with plenty of allegations, but they didn't, or they apologized, or they weren't clear enough, and now they are out of the picture.
Yeah. This is the interesting thing about social media as well, is that exactly we choose what we're angry about, but there are so many other things. But it's exactly the same with like Katie Hopkins.
Katie.
Made a video explaining why Idris Elba cannot be James Bond because he's black and he isn't from a posh background like James Bond is, right? So he can never understand the world that James Bond is from. Now, this is a problem because it's not like she put up a video every single time that there was a wrong casting for something. So why are there certain things that we're angry about others we're not? We don't care.
It's sensationalism. Stuff like that gets people to watch
that I understand, but it's not about that because she wasn't the only one that had a problem with this. The whole of social media seemed to blow up about this guy being James Bond.
I think just like Donald Trump, Katie Hopkins is a troll. And she's good at it, just like Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
When you watch the video as a kind of not so thin guy, that moment, which is pretty rude to the guy, but when there is a guy explaining his problems, he says, "My real problem is," and she just cuts him off and says, "Food." It's so funny.
Can we?
But if you're not,
I'm going to link the Philip Schofield diss, which is if you're from the US and don't know who Philip Schofield is. Philip Schofield is a host on a breakfast talk show in the UK. There's an episode where they're having a discussion with another woman, and Kate Hopkins about naming children, and she goes something like, I don't agree with naming children silly names like after cities or countries.
Yes,
and he goes like, isn't your daughter called India? Or something like that.
And of course she stutters something bullshit out, but it's like, come on. It's no.
I'll link it.
What was she was talking...
Wait. Just before.
Go on.
I'll say something I'll probably regret if I ever meet one, but it kind of denies Katie Hopkins' credibility. I'm like, she was on The Apprentice. And we've seen with Donald Trump, who was also the host of The Apprentice. Those shows, if you ever see The Apprentice, it's all like these 60-second VTs of like, I'm the best businessman in the world. I could sell fish to the Eskimos.
But it just
Inuits. So that's offensive.
It just goes to show though that it's about business. They made their money.
Yeah.
So why does it matter how they made it? So That's the world that we live in.
Anyway, going back to
just 1 second.
Jesus.
No, 1 second. The thing about her is that, for pretty much anything, she hasn't done anything concrete, but for the fact that she really despises fat people because she thinks they are killing themselves, she actually went and gained 200 pounds and lost them.
What?
To prove that it was laziness to be fat.
Jesus Christ, I don't even know that.
Yeah.
The other thing, she's also
There's so many things wrong with that.
She's also bankrupt now, so if we'd stop talking about her, she'll go away. So.
It's not. Do you know what? It's not about her. It's about what she represents, because there are a lot of people that agree with her, and that's a problem.
I know. Right.
So it's not about her.
Going back, when we meant this whole segment was about how the Wikipedia thing had to throw out that black people weren't in the same squads in World War II.
Which I don't even know if it's true, actually.
No.
I don't know.
We don't know. But the other thing is, like, this film, because I enjoyed it that much, it made me go and thinking, like, I should probably go and look at the black effort in the First and Second World War, because it'll be there. But we just don't hear about it, which is a shame.
Yeah,
it made me want to go, like, let's go and find out about this.
Yeah, it's like the Indians, Pakistani,
exactly.
Well, Indians at that time, but yeah.
And like Anouk said about seeing somebody you identify with, there will be black kids that see this movie and go, wow, and Star Wars with John Boyega and so on and forth. They'll be able to go, oh, I could be an actor now.
Thank
you know,
you.
so I think this film, or
a soldier, or someone that saves the world. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's not only about, oh, I can be an actor. It's also about, like, I can do something.
Yeah, like they
Different.
they can save the day. You know,
Yeah.
there's finally the hero is universal now. It's no longer just the white guy saving the day. It's getting the girl.
Yeah.
It can be anything, which is good.
I have a story, like in nursery, for example, I was told that I wasn't allowed to be a princess because I was brown.
Oh.
So that,
Or did you have to be Jasmine?
Yeah, or I had to be exactly. So it's kind of like just remember that every single time that you think that this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it does. When you're that young, that the things that you see, it's important.
It's one of the best. It's one of the good. Well, I need to phrase this right. It's one of the benefits and joys of having you here is that we get another aspect. Because if the podcast was just me and Yann, we're just saying these bold claims. But now, because we have you that has experienced the whole life different to me and Yann, because A, being a woman, and then B, being mixed race, you know, you have a totally different experience of life to say me or Yann does.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it is quite insightful. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, there are some other aspects, like, because I don't agree with some. Like, I mean, with some of the extremes, like, you can't, we talked about that a few times. I always keep silent because I'm brewing. But, no, I mean, it's entirely, completely stupid comparison. But have you seen the film Bolt or Volt? The
Disney film with the dog?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I've seen it, but I know of it.
Yeah, so if you think far... Technically, we can't. We're not dogs, so we can't really relate and talk about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I get what you mean.
The fact that you absolutely have to be part of the community, and again, I don't really like to be part of communities and be told what to think. You have to be part of that community to talk about that community. That's preposterous to me, actually.
I agree. I think there are certain things. It's all about being open to a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like,
yeah,
for example, we could...
I didn't really think that I'd get that reaction.
No, you're right, because...
No, but usually you're shut down or whatever, but you just need to talk that out.
What it is like we have when we talk about it, we now have another aspect to go at it, because you have a different experience. It's like if we watched a film that was about the divide between Pakistan and India, and me and Yann were talking about, I wonder what that's like, and then you can go in and say, well, I've got relatives there and this is what they've been through. Like, it adds more to the conversation, and then it adds more conversation to the people listening to this, because they can hear somebody else that isn't just, you know, outside of the situation, like going, I wonder what that's like. We've got somebody that can relate to it.
But I think as well, like, if we're talking, for example, about I don't know, Get Out, for example, there are things that we're not going to understand, of course, because we're not black.
Yeah, of course.
We're not But
or
that doesn't
American.
Mean, that also doesn't exactly. But it also doesn't mean that there are things that we can't relate to. And I think it's also when we were watching what's it called?
What, the documentary?
Yeah.
They've Got to Have Us.
They've Got to Have Us. They were talking about it's annoying when these producers say this is for a black audience. And it's like, why? Just because I am a certain color? Like, that's crazy.
You certainly can't relate, but you can learn by talking to people and reading. So the point is, you've got some certain videos that are it's going so far in a direction now. There's those videos on YouTube. There's this white guy shouting and another white guy, but you're a white male. How can you relate? You're a fucking white male.
Mm-hmm.
And I was what? Let's just talk and but you've got angry people on both sides and they're vocal and you hear them a lot.
Exactly. I think that's the problem. It's like, of course there are things that you're not going to see if you're a white male, of course, but that doesn't mean that you're totally void of any feeling or any thought process, and that do you know what I mean? Like, you've never felt like you're not part of a group. So there are certain things you can relate to in a certain way. And so I can't sit here and be like, oh, I understand the black experience no matter where you're from. If you're from Africa, Caribbean, Britain, America, wherever in the world you're from. But that doesn't mean that I can't speak to someone and say like start a conversation up. Because that means that I learn, and also they might learn about what I feel. Do you know what I mean? It's like the anger thing is a problem, because as much as I understand why people are angry, it has to come from a calmer place, because this antagonistic thing is actually making us a lot more divisive than before.
The thing, one last thing I think I'll say, because this could even be its own episode in itself. Actually, we could even take this out and go somewhere with it. Is the idea that everyone is the same. The idea of like, my experience will be the same as Yann's experience because we're the same. We're in the same demographic. We're both adult white males,
cis white males.
Yes, exactly. But me and Yann's life experiences are completely different. Yann was in the Navy and had left because he was objecting to the stuff in Libya, whereas I've grown up in Scotland, just wanted to be in drama school. So we've got completely different lifestyles. So, and that's the same with every single person. It's like the idea that we're all the same. It's like, no, we're not all the same. So surely we can learn something from each other, regardless of anything.
I think we all know what it's like to be marginalized. It just depends on where in a certain way you have been marginalized. It might not be the color of your skin. It might not be, but it could be that you're a rape victim. It could mean that you were in a bad relationship. It could mean that you were robbed one day. So I don't know. There are so many things that you can have an understanding of someone in a certain level and learn from each other. It doesn't mean that you can shut someone down and they've had a perfect life just because they're a white male cis guy. Are you kidding? Everyone has their problems. Men have their problems too. Yeah. So that's something that we need to talk about.
I look forward to the day where they can cast a black Perseus and there'll be no deal at all.
I can't wait.
Like, just the idea of an ancient... That's the biggest thing. An ancient Greek that could be any... it's so long ago that we have no recording of it. It's just a story. It doesn't matter who plays it, Of
course.
Well, and there was also the thing of the majority. Like, the thing about it's quite interesting in the current Doctor Who. You can see that they are ticking boxes because the Sheffield ethnic diversity is 84% white, and then you've got some other minorities. Yeah. Whereas you just got one white guy in the show, and I mean, obviously, if you're the majority of white people, then they will we'll do our thing together and just probably don't. Anyway, I have no idea when I'm going with this, but...
Yeah, I know. We were talking about Overlord, weren't we?
Overlord. Do you think there was this thing a long time ago, and it's still going on for John Carpenter films, that in the naming. I think this could have, if they had a trailer that was misleading, they could have had a title like Bad Robots Overlord, or J.J. Abrams Presents Overlord, kind of thing. I've read I purchased the 4K versions of The Fog and They Live recently, and reading the booklet, John Carpenter explained why he puts his name before all of his movies, because nobody else are doing his movies, so yeah, why not?
Okay. And it's distinctly him as well. Like you know when you're watching a John Carpenter movie. I've spent so much energy on that last conversation. I'm drained.
Yeah. Whoops.
We just passed the hour mark, so we're not very far.
Right. What do we want to do?
We talked about the incredible first scene. Did you? Oh yeah, the From Dusk Till Dawn. I talked. There was this effect that Anouk, at one point you thought that you might leave.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'm really glad that I didn't, because I did really, really like this film. It's just that, like, I don't know, I felt like so suddenly really claustrophobic, and this was a scene that was solely focused on a Nazi human experimentation lab, and there's something about human experiments that make me really uncomfortable. It like gets me a lot more than maybe some others, and so just the scene being surrounded by people in the dark and then watching something so intense, I was like, I am feeling really uncomfortable. Like I was so close to leaving.
I thought that whole scene was really done well. The whole like
it really got to me.
Creeping through the enemy layer, because I'll bring it back to the 7 basic plot again. The idea of this war films themselves are overcoming the monster, which is the basic David and Goliath or Perseus and the Gorgon story. To bring back to that, there's always the scene where the hero is trapped by the creature early on, or has an experience with the creature early on, and then has to fight with it later on. So we have this whole going through the layer, which was excellently done. Like we saw everything that we saw, and we felt what was going on to our character the whole way through in that scene.
Yeah, I think as well it was so, it looked so real that, and because it's connected to, we were talking about this, Yann, earlier, that because it's connected to real life, like this happened, I think that added to my panic, because it was like, oh my God, this happened and it could happen again. Oh my God, is it going to happen to me?
I feel like it could, like, in our neighborhood, just open a door and then there is in Battlestar Galactica a scene at one point down the 3rd or 4th season when the Cylons are harvesting human babies. So you've got this scene with the laboratory with women, and it's really, really weird and disturbing scene. Labs.
I think for I mean, again, going back to what I said, I don't know how long we talked about that tangent for, but at the beginning I said I'd come back to the whole idea of rebirthing. This is before the change in our character, who I've forgotten his name again. Boyce, sorry. Because they always do like by surname in war films. I always struggle. I'm like, who are we with again? So with Boyce, even at this point, we've had him step in and save the French girl, the French woman they find, and now he's on his way to do something, like meet up with 2 other people, and he's been trapped in this lair. Like he's still this innocent, I don't want to kill anyone yet sort of character. So it is interesting to take somebody that hasn't. This is definitely part of his change, because he's being confronted with this new idea, like, oh God, our enemy is a real. I can't find decency in this. You know, it separates. In overcoming the monster, we talk about the idea that a monster in the idea of the monster story, even if they are human-esque, are always described with like animal characteristics. You know, like for example, Dracula is human in form, but he is, bat-like and just this really contorted, or Frankenstein, you know, like it looks human, but it isn't. In this, we have the Nazis, which is a human force, but we have to throw in some, obviously we look at history and we look at Nazis as evil, which is true, but we have, in the film sense, we're adding a bit more to the evilness layer, like we're taking the separation. Because when we first meet the sergeant, which is the main villain in the film, which is the monster in this story, and literally the monster by the end, we still see slight human aspects. Like, okay, maybe we can sympathize. Maybe there's something there, and it just slowly chips and chips and chips and chips and chips away at that to the point of like taking it to like, okay, he is the monster, and it plays on both fields because we watch Ford beat the absolute shit out of him.
I think that, you know what, I think Ford was a really interesting choice because it also talks about, are you a good soldier? If you're a good soldier, that might, it like being a morally ethical person, it's going to be really difficult for you to make that switch because being a soldier, you need to follow orders. So if your orders aren't to blow up the lab, you've got to be able to leave it and allow that to carry on while you focus on your orders. And Boyce had a problem with that because he still has that part of him, which obviously even at the beginning, Ford is like a very war-hardened man who's obviously seen a lot, done a lot. And it's all about what you're supposed to do. And that is also as honorable as Boyce. I would not say that Ford is a lesser evil person than Boyce is, but it's just a very different dynamic of how to go through your journey in the world, you know?
It does, however, as soon as Ford starts beating the shit out of the sergeant,
yeah,
I watched that and go,
PTSD.
He's not going to survive till the end of the film.
Oh, Ford?
Yeah, because but this is because I've read so much in these stories and I've seen so many films because it's part of our job. I'm like, right, if we want Ford, the audience, to sympathize with Ford, we either have to have him die by sacrificing himself for the greater good. Like I saw that coming. I'm like, right, that has to happen, otherwise I'll feel unsatisfied. And it was not the case of like I see it coming. I'm like, I hope this happens because this will pay off what I feel makes an interesting story. So I thought that was quite cool. I was like, right, okay, so if they do something like... It made me go, I hope they do this because I really want them to pay off in this and I care about this film in that way. And I'm glad they do, with him at the end deciding to become the monster, to beat the monster, and sacrificing himself to stop the rest of the monsters ever happening.
It's interesting as well because it's like also removing the soldier from like the side that he's on, because I thought that was really nice because they made every single German soldier an arsehole, right? Which in some war films they don't. There are some war films where there are German soldiers, because of course there were German soldiers that were human beings who were nice guys who helped loads of Jews to leave the ghettos and actually were part of the good side.
It depends of who they are. I think if it's SS or if they're the German army, because there are two separate forces, and they might be the SS because we see the lighter with the two lightning bolts.
Yeah, and he was an arsehole.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I just mean that in Overlord they decided that every single German soldier that we saw was an arsehole, right? But the other side, there were different sides of soldier, and what was nice was that at the end, Ford like made himself a human being rather than just part of like just being an American
or becoming the monster that he's becoming. Like he chooses humanity over the becoming the super soldier.
Because maybe if he was just a soldier, he would have brought back the
serum.
Serum back to the Americans.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
That was an interesting journey to go on.
Oh, there's the well, you got to suspend your disbelief, but there's the syringe in the pocket.
Yeah, that annoyed me.
Well,
that really annoys me.
Wasn't it a pouch? Was it like a side pouch?
I thought it was in his pocket.
That's like a side pouch when he's trying.
A side pocket, yeah, but still.
I guess
that would have snapped, surely.
I guess, but
or at least gone inside you or something. I don't know, maybe not. It just annoyed me because it was so simply like, I brought this back. It's like, really? Through all that shit?
I did like that when we got the super soldiers, a lot of it was practical. And there was a lot of effects as well, but a lot of it was practical too, which was nice.
Yeah.
I thought.
I also liked how they used like physical. What's it called? Physical actors. Physicality act. Yeah, the actors that are obviously really good, or at least maybe even trained in using their bodies in a certain way. Like even that. He could have even, I mean, I'm guessing he wasn't an extra, but he was literally on screen for like a split second. You know, the guy that when we first see the Doctor, he's strapped, like standing, and he gets and he like tenses.
He comes back at the end briefly.
We see for the first time that the serum does something weird.
Yeah, to your body. Even that I thought was incredible because it was like the whole way of being restrained, but also realizing the body has changed. Like that's kind of genius. So I quite liked how they used the actors to portray other things. Like, I mean, that guy at the end with the one arm, like running through hallways.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Creep, which is another really creepy film.
We need to talk about Venom and Upgrade. There is a major physicality difference between the two actors in those two movies. It's funny because Upgrade and Venom has very, very, very similar stories.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
we can do a comparison.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. What else are we got to say? I feel like I had a lot to say, and then I'm exhausted.
I mean, they definitely wanted you to hate the German sergeant.
Yeah.
Because because in the first time that you see him, you're kind of supposed to like him because he lets her go.
Yeah.
But then I also had a split second, and I don't know if this is because I'm in the industry, but I immediately thought, yeah, he let her go, but he's coming back for her.
I didn't think that, but
I did for like in the split second. I was like, oh, that's so nice, and I was like, oh, that's not going to look good. And
you were right.
I did think that maybe he'll come back for her and rape her, which he tried to do. But I also didn't want to commit to that because that might not have happened, and maybe he was a nice guy. But he literally he had nothing good about him.
No.
He had nothing good about him.
You don't get from the very start that he's the asshole. Like you said, he's being nice to it. So there is a gradual
shift.
They
play with it because they make you feel sorry for him when he's getting the absolute shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, you do.
You do sympathize for him, you know.
And you do think maybe he might then leave. And then everything will be fine, but it kind of just escalates into this whole thing. I mean, that spike thing was intense to watch.
The meat hook. Shout out to Saw 7.
I think the Foley in this film was really good.
Yeah, the sound design everywhere was really good. Like the whole when he's running through the corridors, the sounds coming on different sides, the stereo effect. There was also lots of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, it's like slightly wet sound. Oof. What I actually missed was the fact that the guy at the end with the one arm chasing after Chloe was the same guy that we saw in the beginning.
Yeah.
The French.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, we are definitely.
Both of you were, actually, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, of course, because he came out from the same room.
It's also the same guy whose wife was shot. It's him.
Right, so we see his journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awful.
Yeah, it's good. It's well done.
Oh, God. Oh, it's so
Don't cover your mouth, babe. We're on a podcast.
Sorry. Oh, it's so awful.
Right. Right. Well, that's
Oh
nice.
God,
There's
that
a
is
lot
really
of
nice.
there's a very good screenwriting and very good arc development and character development in this film. Really good.
Especially because the fact that I didn't get that, I don't think it's because it was a bad film. I think it's, badly done. I think it's because it's quite shocking. So I think if I watched it again, I would see it a lot of things more easily because the shock factor would be out. And I actually never understood why people faint and are sick and run out screaming out of cinemas. In that film, I really felt like I wanted to. I was like, oh my God, I get it.
Oh dear.
Well, it's like I think I told that story of my aunt in the podcast already.
Yeah,
who just left in the middle of
Dusk Till Dawn.
when everything started to go to shit in that film. Yeah, she was there. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. I'm so glad that I stayed though, because I did really like it.
I enjoyed this too.
It's just a tough scene. If you can get past that, it was easy. It was easier afterwards.
But doesn't that feel so much better than some of the shit we've been watching recently? Like films that never get any rise out of you at all. You know?
And that's why I had to specify that I didn't want to leave. I was just worried that I would be sick.
So what do you feel in contrast to what you said in Hereditary about people in the cinema get confused with because it was in the cinema in an environment that it's actually more scary than it is?
I think there's a difference between showing how bad a situation is and it being real and raw and just being bad.
Fair enough.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can show how horrible a situation is, and of course, I'm not saying that that this actually happened, but the human experimentation was probably going on nowadays. Like, I don't know. It's like this is something that I've never really seen done well.
Right. Okay.
And I think it didn't help because this happened, and that probably didn't ease my panic. But just because also that you're panicking or you find a scene really tough to watch, it doesn't mean that the film was bad either. Sometimes it's just something that you feel like that was bad and this was excellent.
So do you think it was secluded to your time in the cinema, or did you bring some of that afterwards with you?
So when I left the cinema, did I feel
still thinking about?
No. As soon as I left, I was like, that was fucking good. I want to see that again.
There we go.
So yeah, then maybe that's it.
Cool.
Because there's also a difference between watching the Serbian film, right? I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I've heard about it a few times. But
it's one of those. Even the directors were saying that like we just wanted to see how far we could go with the scenes, and and because they focused on sex, it's a whole thing. It was unbelievable. It's just unbelievably ridiculous. So there's a difference, because after I watched that, I had nightmares because there was no substance to it. It was just horror. And with this, at least it had a story, and it was a film, right? Like, yeah.
I think what we should do next, because I have Mandy here, which wasn't released in theaters, but we already have it here, which is supposed to talk about soon. No, I think what we should do, because there's a film I've seen recently made by the Spirig brothers, who did Jigsaw, right?
Yes.
And they did Jigsaw. They were given Jigsaw right after a movie called Predestination, which I've seen recently, and I actually bought the Blu-ray, which is there. You watch that, and you're obsessed with that movie and that story for at least 6 hours afterwards. It's incredible.
Okay.
I think we should watch that tonight if we don't have any other plans.
Definitely.
Because I'm leaving soon, and we probably should have at least one other episode in.
All right.
Rating maybe?
Yes.
Yes, and this highly weird episode of... This reminds me of when we did... was it Chicken Run? We did Chicken Run, and we ended up talking about the industry, but this time we talked about representation, I think. Was that representation we talked about?
politically correct and non-politically correct stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so Anouk, Yann, was Overlord good, bad, or just plain standard? Anouk?
It was definitely good. I want to say better though. This was a.
You could just say good, by the way. You don't have to worry about flavors and stuff like that.
I know, but I think that's unfair to say. Like, I thought this was excellent. I thought that it really shocked me and got to me, and I thought this is the way to make a film. And so inspiring.
Flair. Inspiring flair.
Yeah.
Yann?
Good. Very good with the intense.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely intense.
I think I'll stick this where I stuck Trainspotting 2, and I'll say I'll revisit this in maybe like a couple of years, not a couple of years, but a while, and see if it's the potential to become a modern day masterpiece or so on. I think,
or legendary.
Yeah. I think the ability to pay off a conventional war story, which is, destroy the beacon and save the day, and with the whole overcoming a monster created by evil in the same story, and not have either one of them not pay off, is very impressive to do.
Definitely.
Also have a whole character go through about, I've got to become this thing to survive again. Very interesting. A lot of good scenery, a lot of good opening, just all around great movie. I think this has potential to be the best film I've seen this year.
Definitely.
That's up there for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, very high rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Whoa, that was exhausting.
All sorts of things talked about in this episode.
Yeah.
In the conversation we had earlier, if you have any views or we missed something in our discussion about representation and seeing the world differently, let us know.
Call us and
call
the podcast.
Call the podcast.
Yeah, please do, because it is all about learning and being open-minded and talking about it. Like, it's not like, any time that we say something, it's like stuck and we're not going to change our minds. Or even if we don't change our minds, it's not saying that you are devalued.
No, it's always interesting to hear. Like I said, everyone's different. Everyone's got coming at this with a different approach. So it's always interesting to hear.
You can call us on 555. That's the fake number in Hollywood movies. Starting with 555.
I don't know where.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Instagram, no, not Instagram. It's a bit weird. No, you could go over the Instagram and DM. There's that way. There's Twitter as well. You can tweet us.
Yeah.
All these kind of things. Our place, if you want to.
I mean, we did it like this with for Shine. We can have actually people on the show. That's doable, actually. I'll just like to, because this is the World War II movie, so I would invite you to go and search the numbers of victims by nationality, and it will be probably very surprising to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're good.
Yeah,
aren't we?
I think
we're good.
So we were
Adam,
Anouk,
and Yann. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast. If you like what you heard, you can leave us a review via iTunes. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Good, Bad, Standard Podcast on both platforms. If you fancy seeing the live streams that we talk about in the podcast, they can be found on youtube.com. You search for Milk in a Wineglass. There are other bits and bobs on there too, just to see what Yann's up to during the week. And if you really like us, like really, really like us, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/goodbadstandardpodcast and have a look if you want to support us. Any small donation is appreciated.